You can now make a request to a URL and use its response. This is an advanced feature. To demonstrate it, I created 3 filters. Let's see them one by one. In the first example, we will retrieve the current temperature from a free meteorology API and insert it into the post content. As you can see, I have added temperature selector for the post content selector setting. Let's test it. It says the temperature was 18.7 degrees Celsius when this post was crawled. The selected element's text is 18.7 degrees Celsius. The final text is created by using the template option of the options box. Okay, let's see how the temperature is retrieved from the API. We first create an anchor element whose href attribute contains the API URL. Then we use make command of request subject to select the created anchor element and use its href attribute as the request URL. Then we convert the response, which is in JSON format, to HTML. Let me show you the command definitions. This is the anchor element for the API URL. As you can see, the response is in JSON. In the make command, we simply point to the created anchor element and make a GET request to it. We define a container element ID. This ID is assigned to the element that contains the response of the request. Next, we add a convert to HTML command. When the response is JSON, the response element contains the JSON string in a P element. We give that P element's text to this command as JSON data. Then we define our HTML template. In the template, we define a P element with the ID of temperature. This element contains the temperature and its unit as its text. Let's see the visual inspector. This is the response retrieved from the API. This is the HTML element created via the convert to HTML command. As you can see, it contains the temperature value and its unit. Now we can select the element with the ID of temperature to retrieve the temperature with its unit. Let's save the settings and test them via the tester page. We can see the temperature information at the bottom of the post content. Perfect. In the second example, we will use OpenAI's API to generate an image via their DALL-E model by giving the post title as a prompt. Our goal is to create this image and add it below the post title. First, let's see the API reference to learn how to make an API request to create an image. We need to make a post request to this URL. Here, we see 2 request headers that need to be specified. Also, we need to define a post body in JSON format as shown here. Okay, we first create an anchor element that contains the API URL via the create command. Then we add a make command and select this API URL as the request URL. As the request method, we select post. Because we need the post title in the post body, we define a shortcode that will be replaced with the title of the post. Then we define the post body as specified in the API's documentation. As the prompt, we use the post title shortcode. We want the response to be added inside an element with the ID of DALL-E response. Finally, as specified in the documentation, we define the 2 request headers. Next, we add a convert to HTML command and give it the JSON data retrieved as the response. We define a template that creates an IMG element whose src attribute's value is the generated image's URL. The JSON path of the first image can be found in the API documentation by observing the sampled response. Finally, we add a move command to move the created image element after the title. Let's reload the page in the Visual Inspector to see a new image. We can select this image as the featured image of the post in the Featured Image Selector setting. In the previous examples, we retrieved JSON data as the response. Now let's see an example where the response is HTML. We will search eBay for the post title and add the first 3 search results to the post content. Let's see the result in the Visual Inspector. OK. Let's examine the commands used to achieve this. We first need to create a search URL where the search query is the post title. To do this, we select the post title as the request URL for the make command. Then, we use the options box to convert the post title into a search URL. We replace each space character in the title with a plus character to make it suitable for the search query part of the URL. Then, we define a template that outputs the search URL that uses the post title as its search query. When we go to the URL, we can see the search results. So, our search URL works as expected. We make a GET request to this URL and put the response into an element with the ID of related products response. We want the related products to be displayed in their own section, so we create that section by using the create command. We add this section at the bottom of the post content. We define an h2 element for the section's title. We also define an empty div element with the ID of related products. We will move the search results into this element. Next, we move each search result into the element with the ID of related products by defining a move command. Finally, we add a remove command to remove unnecessary elements existing in the search page's source code. Let me not remove the response container so that we can see it in the Visual Inspector. As you can see, the entire eBay page is added at the bottom of the target post page. The search results are not shown there because we moved them to the post content. We actually do not need to remove the response container. I removed it to make the target page's source code tidier and easy to work with. As it can be seen in the examples, the make command along with the create and move commands is a very powerful command. You can make requests to APIs and retrieve other pages' source codes. Also, if the target page is loaded via JavaScript by making a request to another URL, and if you can give that URL to the make command, you can retrieve the data that is loaded via AJAX.